I would like to welcome all of you, first of all, to this bootcamp. The bootcamp will be divided into 4 main sessions. So we will give you a brief introduction to SEADE and some of the partners that are involved in the SEADE project. So SEADE is what has made us to do this bootcamp. And I'll provide you a bit of the context. So probably if you're here, what are some of the things you should be looking for? Also, what are some of the what are some of the things that you are also looking for regarding this bootcamp, and also progress to now a dedicated session on some case studies. So for Europe and Africa and their challenges, and also a dedicated case study for Kenya. Having said that, so some brief introduction. So my name is Joseph Shitote. I am a project manager at R&IID. R&IID is a company that deals with IoT and innovations, and we have been quite experienced from 2017 to develop and showcase technologies in AI and IoT. We are part of the consortium of the SEADE project, and our interest here is mainly to try and navigate the challenges for market access. So that is, we have developed solutions for quite some time, but then we also realized that there is quite a gap in transitioning these solutions to the market. So that is an experience that most innovators do not have. And part of the case studies that will show some of the solutions that we have developed and some of the things that we're trying to do towards this market access, and also the challenges that we have faced and how we are trying to go about it. Regarding SEADE, so SEADE is a project funded by the European Union. So it consists of a consortium of 10 partners, so 5 in Europe, 5 in Africa also. And its main focus has been to try and increase the cooperation between Europe and Africa, specifically on the digital ecosystem. So that is setting the relationship between Europe and Africa from a digital perspective. And in this case now, regarding this bootcamp, it's more on the market access. So we are trying to look at several challenges that we have done quite some studies. So SEADE began in January last year, January 2024. And over this time, we have gone through some interesting process to try and understand, okay, what is the gap existing between Europe and Africa? So from let's market access perspective. So what are some of the challenges for innovators in these two continents? And then from that list, now we narrowed it down to things to do with funding, things to do with let's say culture, things to do with infrastructure. So there are quite many challenges, and from this we try to now test and see if we have some solutions for them. So through such bootcamps, we provide some of the learnings that we have. So we will show them in this bootcamp, and then from these learnings, we now also get to hear from you, like what are some of the experiences and what, and that now provides us with a way to actually provide some recommendations for anyone else who would like to navigate the same kind of path in regards to applications and solutions. And then now we have done pilots actually in Ghana, Senegal, Kenya, and South Africa. WASIAP is strongly related to Kenya, so we provide results for Kenya. But then there are follow-up webinars, follow-up bootcamps. One is in the afternoon. There are 2 other bootcamps upcoming in September, which will be dealing with other challenges. So the bootcamp in the afternoon is focusing on, the bootcamp in the afternoon is focusing on funding challenges. So probably if you've not subscribed to it, you could have a look and see if it's an interesting thing for you. And then we also have other upcoming bootcamps in September, which will be discussed also. SEADE has a huge relationship to the Global Gateway. So all the things that we do, we try and relate them to the main objective of the EU Global Gateway. So in this case, we are strongly on the side for research and innovation. So there are solutions in different areas. So policy is one of them. So you find some results on democratic values and high standards, good governance, transparency. So we have policy related to some of these issues. And then we also have innovations in different sectors. So green and clean energy, for example, and many others. Also a huge relationship to the Agenda 2063, Africa we want, and then also something to do with the sustainable development goals. We have had several activities from the time of the launch. So from last year, we have had dedicated webinars in the October last year. So we dedicated webinars in each of the pilot regions. So Ghana, Senegal, Kenya, and South Africa, focusing on several factors. Right now, there are also several activities going on from the learning expedition. There are also soft learning programs. We just finished the digital youth training program, and there's a training program ongoing between several organizations in Europe and Africa. And these programs have been organized in each of the pilot regions and organized in a way, in a very customized way to support and try to bridge the R&I gap. Right now we're working on the bootcamp, so it is one of the activity that we're using as a tool to resolve or try to understand some of the gaps. So in this case, market access. So try and understand the market access. Try to understand the market access, and then from this understanding, we try and again provide recommendations and see whether they are effective tools. Probably they could be reused. Some of them, for example, some of the programs that we have aligned can be reused now in case they are successful in bridging the respective gap identified. So regarding the bootcamp, so the context perspective, so this bootcamp, who is it for? So we are targeting now. If you have joined, then you could be either a European organization or European individual. You have been working on a digital solution for some time. You're trying to access markets, actually both in Europe and Africa, and you're facing some challenges. So that is, you have digital solutions. They are ready for the market, but you're having challenges in meeting the market in either Europe or Africa. Also, the other way around, you could be an African organization, so working on an interesting digital solution. You feel like a solution could be used in the African context, or also in the European context, and you are trying to bridge that gap, but then you're facing many challenges. So probably some of the solutions would come out of this bootcamp, and probably at the end, at the Q&A session, it would be interesting to hear some of the challenges that you're facing, or even a bit of your personal experiences, and probably how we can come in and SEADE to support you. So Yeah, that being said, it is important because from our small research, so some bit of what we have done, we have seen that actually when people develop solutions, there's a huge misunderstanding of how the markets look like. For example, if you're developing solutions for Africa, there's an assumption of maybe the behavior of these people will be the same as the behavior of the team in Europe, or what would work in the lab would definitely be solved, or rather would definitely work in the African context. So we've discovered that there's a huge misunderstanding between the two markets. Yeah. Also, there are huge cultural and social barriers. That is, what you develop for this location will not necessarily work for what you develop in another location. So one community you might develop for this community, let's say you're building a solar PAYGO system, or you have a irrigation system for IoT, and you are deploying it for a given community. If you try and scale that solution to a different community, even in the same region, you find that it is not matching up quite clearly. So we need to really assess this problem, and from this problem, we try and see whether we can find, like, let's say, a solution that could work. Yeah, it's a solution that could work. Yeah. And then we also have issues of finding reliable contacts. So there are those who have tried to access markets, but then you don't know who to contact. Probably in the Kenyan setup, you don't know who to contact, or in the African setup, in the European setup, you don't know who to contact. Yeah, so also we can try and see what are the best ways to do that. What is the best approach to find these contacts? Who are the proper linkages? Yeah, if you'd like some linkages, probably even in this call, you could ask. Let's say if you're looking for an organization, probably in the Kenyan setup, yeah, it would be interesting to hear from you. So at this stage, I don't know if Moises has joined the call.
Yes, I'm here. Good morning.
Okay, great. Good morning, Moises. Yeah. So probably Moises will take us through now some kind of mapping and the current situation in the European and African market situation, and then probably discuss a bit of their challenges and some of the lessons learned. He has some interesting case studies, so that is some of the experiences, like a personal experiential case study from his side. Then now we can proceed with the case studies for Kenya. So Moises, yes. Please welcome. Yeah. Thank you.
Hello, thank you, Joseph, and good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. I'm Moses Moiseos. I'm from Cyprus. I represent the R&IID Ventures, which is the incubator of SEADE Business Innovation Center in Cyprus. And I have been kindly asked to join you today and make a presentation. So today, first of all, before I start, you may interrupt me anytime for any question. I might not see the hands, but Joseph can take a look on the hands raised, and I'm happy to answer any questions. It was challenging for me to make this presentation because it's like I need to share a lot of case studies and lessons learned from our journey. So I decided to take the storytelling approach. So today I will share our innovation and entrepreneurship and ventures from Cyprus, and there's a reason for that, to connect it with Africa, on how we started back in 2012, why we launched an incubator, how challenging it was to support and expose local technology into the world, and especially from a country in the Middle East towards Europe. What are the difficulties and challenges doing a job like this in Cyprus, and why we decided to launch our own VC. Through this story, I will try to connect the dots and provide you with, from Cyprus to Africa, let's say, the lessons from thriving into an innovation ecosystem. So we can discuss similar challenges, similar opportunities, building from within our ecosystem, overcoming funding gaps, the power of collaboration. I have some examples to share, and the roadmap for growth. So I come from a small country, an island in the Eastern Mediterranean. For Europe, we are considered Africa and Middle East, and for Africa and Middle East, we are considered Europe. So we are on the crossroads here, and I believe I have some good case studies and lessons learned to share from our experience. Starting, I suppose that you should know some metrics from Cyprus, just a small country of 1 million population, very small area, capital in the middle of the island, very good proximity to Africa, Asia, and Europe, but mostly Asia and Africa. And our climate is almost like yours. We started back in 2012 by setting up a research and innovation center. Our goal was to become a regional center of research, innovation, and entrepreneurship, and this is what we did. And this is our structure today. So I will set the scene for the next 5 minutes, who we are and what we do, in order to connect the next of the story and link it to your case. So the main structure here is the SEADE, the mother company, the Research Innovation Center, that has an in-house R&D center, collaboration with local academics, technology, business, entrepreneurship organizations. We have in-house departments of mechanical design, electronics, mechatronics, and software development. The company provides services to the industry and, of course, some innovative products. We are a member of EBN since 2015, so we represent the EBN network in Cyprus. And around 2016, because we have started receiving a lot of leads of potential entrepreneurs, people that had an idea and they wanted to investigate the possibility of making some IP or developing a new product. So we had to launch the incubator, which is Gravity Incubator. So the incubator is structured under our Research Innovation Center structure. And recently, we launched also the local venture capital firm. So Gravity Incubator, it was built in 2016 with one aim: to support tech startups and aspiring entrepreneurs. Our goal here is to launch meaningful businesses with founders driven by purpose and passion. So we set up the whole program into 4 major pillars of funding, business support, access to market, and technical support, just like any other startup support program. And we offer a plethora of services, from idea validation all the way to commercialization and accessing international markets, but all the steps in between. We are not a traditional accelerator, we are a traditional incubator, which means that we adjust our program based on the needs and the current technology readiness level of every startup. And we are not curriculum based. We adjust the support package based on every startup, the team, their maturity, their technological maturity, their go-to-market strategy, and everything in between. So being in a small country, unfortunately, I don't know if it's a curse or a blessing, but you do not have the luxury, let's say, to be selective in terms of verticals and technical support. On the other hand, having a structure of 50 people, mostly 50 engineers and technical-driven individuals that are able to support technological ideas from the idea level all the way to fully functional working prototypes, we decided that we can support these 6 verticals, from mobility to biotech, robotics, health tech, agriculture, and marine. So we're very strong on taking the next concept idea on these fields and transforming it all the way to a fully functional working prototype. So lesson number 1 if, let's say, you are limited of options, you have limited options of leads, you can expand the funnel, let's say, of what you can really do well. We can offer very good technical support. We can support 6 verticals, not just 1. So we realized I will start showing things that I believe are common also for your ecosystems. There was a gap, and there was a gap between the startup community and the investing community. They were talking basically, and roughly speaking, different languages. So we had to follow specific initiatives to bring these 2 communities together and try to talk to each other. Through the early stage investment launch pod, which is an example I'm showing here, we organized in 2 years a series of events bringing investors from EU to our local ecosystem that was also considered and still considered Middle East for them, and make presentations to startups of what an investor really wants, and also make presentations to local investing syndicates. So the local angels here got some bit of education from the EU investing firms. On the other hand, we also had the startups attending, so they have received a lot of feedback and comments from the EU investing community on what is expected from them if they want their products to join the EU market. Some other initiatives, Invest Horizon, for example, one of the startups here, which I will show afterwards, they joined the Invest Horizon program because the Horizon Accelerator program, because they wanted to be more educated what the European market really needs, what are their compliances in terms of photonics. And on the right side of the slide, you see one of our own products, Capsule Skateboards, that also used EU funding to digitalize their production line by introducing cutting-edge equipment such as laser cutters and robotic machinery. So EU funding and Invest Horizon initiatives are very highly recommended and supported if you want to join potentially the EU market. Some of the startups here, I'm not going to go into detail because I will explain them afterwards, but all of them are in different verticals. Capsule Skateboards is in advanced manufacturing and materials, Introfolk in renewables, medical diagnostics, robotics. So a plethora of verticals, but they have one thing in common. Very strong technical background from idea level to technology readiness level 7, which is fully functionable working prototype. And of course, having interaction with EU initiatives to educate themselves and sustain them for the European market. So, for example, Bialoom. Local researchers, they had no idea about how the EU market works. They were just doing basic laboratory research. This is a device to detect pathogens and specifically sepsis. So we developed a prototype in Cyprus. We utilized European funding to set up the patents, to make the prototypes, to test, to calibrate the product, to discuss with local potential investors in EU countries, to receive feedback and integrate it into the project. So a very good utilization of EU opportunities. Then I have a Corpio, which is producing biopolyol from biodegradable materials. This is a typical example of an entrepreneur that came to us through the Erasmus for Entrepreneurship program. We liked him. He stayed in Cyprus. We submitted local funding proposals. We got some grants. We set up a pilot in Cyprus. And then through other European initiatives, this company managed to set up a small-scale pilot on the island to produce biopolyol. And now we're seeking to expand and possibly register a company in France for this specific reason to export the product. Again, this happened through EU funding routes. And of course, with the tremendous support of EBN and multiple initiatives. Bodytech, this is a gym integrating IoT sensors to provide real-time vital monitoring and custom-made training sessions for the individuals. Again, a case that was validated and expanded through the utilization of local and EU funding. And another case, Octave, this is a music device, a Visual Studio host device that is 100% made in Cyprus in the music industry, a Visual Studio host device. For this one in particular, we didn't go to EU. We directly went to the US at a small exhibition. So we were able to expose the product to the world markets and the major distributors there. So the key is what we say, think local, act global, think global, act local. In these cases, we also acted locally, and then we tried to expose the products to the corresponding market. The final one is a medical device for anoscopy, also made in Cyprus. Again, medical diagnostic device. You can conduct various anoscope tests. This gives you the benefit that you can conduct this type of diagnostic service in remote and rural areas at a fraction of a cost. So this product got FDA approval to be used in the US. It's another route. So we needed to identify at every technology readiness level throughout the journey of the development of these products, where is a corresponding market, and try to attract and attack this market specifically. Because every market, even if it's a different country, has different regulations, different access routes. But the good thing with EU is that the regulatory framework and the compliance framework is more or less the same. Now, we have launched a commercial arm in the company for the last 3 years. And what we have identified is some business opportunities in the IoT sector that I'm currently sharing with you. So we have become system integrators of multiple IoT technologies in EU that I believe also could be a good test bed for the African continent, such as cold chain monitoring, energy monitoring, and water monitoring with IoT technologies and specifically LoRa network integration, the smart buildings, the smart retail analytics, and smart agriculture, as well as environmental monitoring, forest management, and smart parking solutions. Last but not least, what we see as huge business opportunities from Africa to the EU is the sewer network monitoring, the water quality, and of course, anything that has to do with off-networks monitoring. These are solutions that we promote in EU, and we believe that there is a huge potential also for the African continent. At this stage, I would like to emphasize the common denominator that the company uses when it comes to supporting either innovative startups or SMEs. It's the EU Big Service Value Chain. So being an EBN member for the last 10 years, this has helped us benchmark and assess our quality offerings to the startups and innovative SMEs, and to establish a more solid footprint, let's say, on the entrepreneurship ecosystem, not only in Cyprus, but in the MENA region. Starting from the stimulation services, which is the awareness raising and the lead generation approach, the selection services, how do we perform innovation diagnostics, how do we train the founders, what is the business modeling validation, moving on to the startup services, which is all the basic support that the startup needs to receive, from access to markets, coaching, mentoring, commercialization, training, legal support, and of course the team development, and moving up to the hardest part of it, which was the scale-up services. How do we take these products into the market and eventually beyond borders? In our country, which is small, it's not accepted, let's say, to have a product to be launched only locally because it's not financially sustainable. So when a product is designed or a service, the common, let's say, approach is to look into at least to the EU market. We see potential, and I see some similarities between our nations, let's say. There is increased potential of research and innovation ecosystems. We are more or less leaders across EU in terms of linkages among ecosystem tech stakeholders. And it's the last time, at least in our country, that there is registered higher performance in collaboration between the public and the private sector. However, there was always a problem to build and bridge the gap between the investing community and the startup community. For this reason, I have summarized here some lessons learned from incubating and investing in small ecosystems, which is hands-on mentorship that is needed. It's not only about giving money to the startups and just expect them to get the job done. They need hands-on mentoring. Global networks are key. So for us, EBN was a catalyst on that. You do have local talent to invest. There is plenty of local talent. Niche focus works best, which is a bit of oxymoron for us because we had to adapt. We didn't have this luxury. Patient capital is required. Not everybody wants a quick win. Some of the investing communities invest with let's say, return year of 5 or 6 years ahead. And community building matters. And this is what I see that you are currently doing. Of course, regulation and tax benefits are very beneficiary to attract foreign investment to your local ecosystem. There is an emerging startup scene, more investor support needed for early stage growth, the hands-on that I've been talking about, and building investor trust is crucial. So growing reputation, transparency, and stability are key for credibility. Now, about the future, I was thinking a lot about what the future holds for us. And we can definitely see some growth in tech startups, especially increasing focus on AI, green tech, and medical tech. The government support is always critical, new incentives and grants for the local ecosystem. There is a rising investor interest. There is improved infrastructure and favorable tax policies to boost this. There is an ambition also, I see it for Africa, that to become a regional tech hub, strategic location, skilled workforce, and a very good positioning. And of course, expanding the digital transformation footprint by giving emphasis on digitalization in public and private sectors. So critical for the future, at least on this time, is the access to EU funding and any other opportunities as a gateway, let's say, for commercialization. The university partnerships, we always like to bring close academia, at least to get very good leads. The focus on sustainability, the talent attraction with some specific policies like startup visa reforms, and the startup ecosystem maturity, which is, and it's observable, and an ongoing improvement in mentorship, accelerators, and networking for startups. So I have tried to summarize 7 key strategies for the African industry and academic leaders to connect with EU, which I will go briefly. If, Joseph, there are no questions so far. I cannot see the panel.
Yeah, no questions.
Okay. So out of the some of the 7 key strategies that I'd like to expand is, first of all, to leverage the Pan-African participation in EU programs. This is critical. The more you maximize the involvement in Horizon Europe, Erasmus+, Digital Europe, via the African Union, EU partnerships and national contact points, and promote the African consortia in EU calls with very targeted support. Also to forge long-term EU-Africa research and innovation alliances. That is something that I consider a key strategy to enter the EU, especially with EU innovation hubs and institutions, there is this opportunity to prioritize joint PhD programs, mobility schemes, African innovation challenges aligned with the EU, the Green Deal. It's an amazing opportunity. Also to activate the presence of major EU innovation and tech events. I mean, we see a lot of regional and very big innovation and entrepreneurship events in Europe and maybe Middle East. It would be a good idea to have something also for Africa, just like the Web Summit or the World Mobile Congress. And of course, mobilize the African diaspora in Europe as innovation bridges, which by empowering African researchers and entrepreneurs abroad to act as ambassadors and connectors. That's a huge key strategy. We have done the same in Cyprus for the local diaspora. They have formed an investing syndicate in Cyprus. And basically what they do have Cypriots from the diaspora, especially in the US. They do have some investment firms or local networks. So it's their gateway to enter the US market, not only the EU market. The final three suggestions that I had is to create an EU soft landing hub for the African startups. Soft landing is important. If you partner with European incubators and clusters, you can build structured pathways for African startups. And of course, they can scale in EU. And especially the regulatory framework, the visa support, regulatory guidance, and cultural onboarding. I'm really a fan of the sectoral co-creation platforms. It's what we used to call living labs, to focus on shared challenges and mutual strengths, sustainable agriculture, health, renewable energy, digital infrastructure. So by building EU Africa living labs and public-private joint ventures in those domains, it would be beneficial. And always, always, always align the standards, IP, and the regulatory frameworks with the market that you want to join. So you have to provide capacity building to align EU product standards such as GDPR, ROHS, or the CE marking, and digital data governance to support African innovators in securing IP rights both locally but also in EU. Finally, closing, I have tried to summarize the do's and don'ts of doing when connecting with the EU market. These have come out of a 10-year experience interacting with the EU market and after multiple failed or successful attempts to join the EU market with our startups. So it's very important, first of all, to understand the EU business culture approach. There is always a cultural thing, even within Europe. So it's different here from Cyprus, from Germany, from France, from Italy, from Greece, from Portugal. So every culture is different, but there is a common, let's say, unified business culture, which you have to be punctual, transparent, and structured in business communication. Europeans, they like clear follow-ups with very specific proposals, and they love documentation and bureaucracy. So you need to be aligned also with EU standards and regulations. So you have to ensure CE marking, GDPR compliance, and ISO certifications to meet European market requirements. And of course, to adapt the business models to meet environmental, social, and governance policies. Sometimes they are different between the countries, but to their great majority for EU, they are the same. Strengthen the digital presence and branding. It's important. This is something you can do remotely, even before entering the market, to prepare the audience for the product or the service. Leverage the diaspora and business networks in EU, and of course, build trust through small-scale collaboration. Europeans love pilots. So start with a small pilot project, a small feasibility study, and join the research initiative. This ensures and builds trust from between the two parties. And then once you establish credibility with a partner, you can scale up way more easier. I've also summarized I think the 6 don'ts when you try to interact with the EU industries. Do not approach without a clear value proposition. This is number one. Don't be too complicated, be very straightforward. This is the value proposition of what I'm introducing to you. Do not overlook legal and compliance aspects, which comes as an oxymoron to the previous that I mentioned, but ignoring GDPR and trade regulations can break partnerships at the very early stage. Do not neglect follow-ups in relationship building. Do not rely on government institutional support. This is for the later stage. At the first stages, the government institutional support is critical. But if you approach and, let's say, aim for direct B2B connections and proactive networking, that could be very beneficial on the long term. Do not undervalue intellectual property and tech protection, especially for Europe, a very heavily bureaucratic organization. This is very, very important. IP and technology protection is something that is discussed basically even on the first meeting of any new product. And do not expect immediate large-scale deals. It's what we mentioned before. Europeans like proof of concept. They like small-scale pilots. You can build trust, and then the way up is way more easier. Thank you very much. That's what I have to say for today. I'm open for questions or clarifications. I believe I have covered my subject to a large extent. If not, please, you can follow up with any question.
Yeah, so Moises, that was quite an informative presentation. I think it's a bootcamp, so it is be more interesting if we make it very, very interactive. That means that if you have any interesting questions to ask, this is the time to share. Also, you could say it from your own experiential way, that is, or if you have tried to launch a product, if you have tried to set up any kind of collaboration, either in Africa or Europe, and you have experienced challenges, then you may want to also hear a bit from your side. So feel free to use the chat panel. Also raise your hand in case you have any in case you have any questions that you'd like to ask, and the technical team will enable the mic for you. So we want the session to be, we want to hear from you also. Yeah. Okay. So I think I will go ahead and continue the final part of the presentation. I can see a hand raised, NM and Martin. So maybe Melanie, could you enable the mic for N Martin?
There is a question from N Martin on the VC perspective and the lessons learned, which I have summarized here in 5 bullet points, which is the regulatory issue.
Could you share your screen?
Yes, of course. I'm sorry, wait. So the regulatory is with local expertise. We tried to copy other countries, which was a mistake. So we had to adapt to local advisors, local ecosystem needs in order to have a smooth compliance. Every country has different, let's say, attributes, pros and cons. So to adjust a regulatory framework based on our local ecosystem was beneficial, which is something we didn't do at the beginning. The tax benefits. the favorable tax regime. So, for example, we launched a local policy that there is an innovation certificate if you are an innovative startup or SME, where if someone invests in this company, it's tax deductible. So this is a very custom way of attracting investors' money on the government level, and this money are given back to startups either through direct investment and equity or through local funding opportunities from the local courts. The ecosystem growth is that we had to educate more investors at the early stage, because many investors like to invest when a startup is already formed. They do have some clients, but we had to identify and train some of the local investing communities to join from the early stages, because they might have higher return, because they like it, because they might want to make an early acquisition on the startup. And then the talent pool limitations. In Cyprus, we had a very small, it's one country with 1 million population. The tech community is a very small percentage. So we had to go and search ourselves potential entrepreneurs hidden in university laboratories, organize local events to get people that they do have these entrepreneurial attributes and convince them to start their own entrepreneurship journey. So we had to act against this limitation. And of course, because everything at the end of the day comes down to the people and building investor trust. So we had to do small and transparent steps towards trust, grow reputation, transparency, and stability for the local ecosystem. I don't know if I have answered to Martin, or is there any other clarification that I need to give? Thank you, Martin.
Yeah, seems good. Yeah, okay. So keep the questions coming. We will have a final session of the call where you can also ask as many questions as you would like. Also, as mentioned before, it is also in our interest to hear a bit of your experiences. So what have you tried to do and what challenges have you faced? Okay, so I will proceed to the next part, which is some case study for the Kenyan ecosystem and what WASI has tried to do. So let me share the screen. Yeah. So just a quick reminder, I saw a question regarding the agenda. So we have 4 sessions. We've already gone through the introduction. We have done the bootcamp context. Then Moises has presented this part. So we are now on the final session for the case study for Kenya. We will have a final session, so maybe a few minutes at the end of this presentation to hear any general questions or to respond to some of your questions. Also, it is of key interest to hear some of the interesting experiences that you had. So let me move on to now the case study, and this will be presenting myself and also Brian here. So Brian will come at some point. I would like to tell all of you that we have had some interesting developments on what we call the WASI Lab platform. So as part of the WASI activities, we have had an interest to make it easier for different participants to access IoT knowledge. Our analysis or the motivation of building such a platform was that in the local context, especially in the previous years, the content for IoT and also AI even if you go to several sources online, they were not very structured. So you would find, yes, there's probably a provider for some introduction to IoT or some related course. You come to this other part of the web and you find some small tests, probably for some kind of experimentation. But then to get it in one place, that was quite complex. Now, also at this level, we have platforms that provide IoT content, yes. Even if you go to the mainstream platforms like Coursera, Udemy, and many others, you find content for IoT. Universities have also introduced dedicated units for IoT, so probably the content is structured. But then with IoT, there is a big challenge on connecting hardware and software. That means that you cannot, IoT is mostly hands-on. So you have to work with devices on the table. You need to develop a prototype, for example. So having the content online only, probably teaching you the generic content is not enough. On the platform itself, you need to have hands-on materials, so some kind of guideline that shows you how to develop a solution, and some kind of let's say instructions that can help you to, let's say, acquire the respective materials that you need, and also additional to that, build that solution itself. So in our case, we built the platform. So the platform is online. I will share. Let me share the link in the chat. So we built the platform. So if you would like to have a look at it, you can check it. And on top of that, we developed some support hardware materials. So we have, when you are taking a course on the platform, we ensure that you have the respective hardware to work while you are developing while you're going through the content. So if you think about it, it's a complete package where if you are an organization that would like to set up a lab for IoT, then you can quickly set it up. So you can go to the platform, you launch a program, then you request for the devices, then you actually get your participants and start running the course. Yeah, so that is how it is organized. And yeah, by doing that, it becomes quite simple to work on any solution, or rather any course or materials in the IoT side, also AI, and a bit of entrepreneurship also included. And with this model, also you could think of any other program that you'd like to run. For example, it could be in any, let's say, space materials, sensors, could be even business and entrepreneurship, or any other course or materials that you'd like to take through the platform. Then it becomes easy. So you can just set up your content and set up your program, and you can run your solution. Yeah. So before I proceed, just to remind you that a link to a brief feedback form was shared on the chat. I will also reshare it if you have not received it. So we would like you to fill this survey. Probably you can fill it during the session or fill it at the end of the session, but it is nice of us to hear some feedback regarding this specific bootcamp session. So yeah, so coming back to the presentation, yeah. So we built this solution, and now you can see it's a complete product. And what we're trying to do now is to test it with, or rather, the pilot has already been done with several digital innovation hubs. We have also done the some kind of pilot TVETs. Yeah, so we know our target group. Yeah, and also since the solution was linked to the African context, so our biggest market is in the African side, and now we are trying to see how it could fit in this different countries in the African ecosystem. We already tested it with 15 hubs, so in 13 African countries. The response was quite positive, but with this response, it still did not mean that we were ready to actually hit the market. Yeah, so we still are facing many complexities. That is, we have tried to let's say create some kind of premium package where for any of the organizations that took the program, if they would like to run it again, then they can come to us and we set a price, and then they see whether they can take up the course again. But now, from a paid perspective, yeah. So directly on the platform. We have also tried to see that we also tried to see like where can we start? Should we start from the digital innovation hubs in terms of the training? Should we start from the technical, vocational, and educational institutions? Did it work for them? So the pilots show a different kind of perspective from what we expect when we come into the financial side. So when you start talking about business and commercialization of any product, we find that what you are being told during the pilot, where the course or the program or the solution was free, is very different from what you experience at the level where you would like to commercialize this product. Several other challenges. So in our case, for example, you see we have devices. So we built the devices internally in Wazia. The manufacturing is done in Kenya. But then you can see if you try to transfer this device to a location like, say, Cameroon or Tanzania or any other country that requires the service, there are complexities in the logistics. First of all, the fee is quite high for these shipping companies. So it adds on to the cost of the product. Yeah, some things that we had not anticipated. And then also, let's say the time taken, duration. So how long does it take to actually transfer the respective package to a given location? So we experienced like at this point where we're trying to take this solution to a respective market, we are experiencing like challenges which we thought that the pilot would have shown us. Yeah. So logistics is one main one. Again, during the pilot, the respective digital innovation hubs and also some of the TVETs that we're working with, they show that they have the capacity to actually consume this product. But then when you come to ask them about the payment part, so it becomes a new story where probably the financial capacity of the organization comes into the question. So they bring questions like, we don't have the money to pay for this service. Yes, it was nice during the pilot, we did it for free, but now when it comes to actually consuming it from a commercial perspective, there are many questions asked during the joining, or rather during the consumption of the product from a commercialization perspective. So digital innovation hubs, same to TVETs. So we realize also there's quite a difference between digital innovation hubs and also the way TVETs consume the product. So TVETs are more structured in their delivery of activities. DIHs are quite random. So what you do for DIHs will not necessarily work for TVETs. So that was also another interesting complexity. And also, we come down to ask exactly who is the customer for this product. Yeah? Because on one level, yeah, we would already have the DIHs and also have the TVETs as the high level consumers of the product. But then coming down, you find this one is asking about the money situation. Also, should we target the organization as large, or should we go at the student level? Because eventually the person who is paying for this solution is the student or the participant attending the program. Yeah, attending the program. So it became a very, we are currently at that stage for transitioning this product to the market. And this analysis is quite surprising for us at this level, but also an interesting journey for us to really understand also how to package the product properly. Because if the customer base is changing, then definitely you need to reassess how you had organized the solution on the platform, how you had organized the courses, which courses are most interesting, maybe some parts are not needed. How should we deliver the the product itself? Yeah, how should we probably package the hardware pieces so that they're more interesting? Should we put all the hardware pieces in, or should we just put a few? So when it comes to the market access part, it's a totally new conversation. And that is an interesting thing for us, because we would like to also have some feedback. I just explained this briefly for you to hear. Maybe you also have some experiences in breaking the African market from an educational perspective, so education products. And you have had these complexities, or maybe you're just at the beginning stage and you also would like to understand how to maybe learn from us, for example, on these complexities. It would be interesting to hear your story also, and if we could if we can connect in that direction, it would be very nice. Probably continue exchanging beyond the bootcamp. Yeah. And now also we wanted to talk a bit about some other products now, some complete packages. So the product that we showed in the first slide was some educational package, which is quite advanced and probably at the brink of breaking the market. We have made a lot of headway on it, but then there are still many challenges that we need to solve. Now, this is a new product that we are developing, and we're just doing some tests in Nigeria and Benin at the moment. I was hoping, I think Brian is in the call now. Maybe we could spend some time to discuss these products, then we can see how to proceed. So over to you, Brian.
Oh, thank you, Joseph. I hope I'm audible enough.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. So on our piloting site for the other products, I think I can start also with some of the challenges we noticed along the way, because we had a complete products that we are targeting the irrigation sector. But what we noticed was, number one, not all farms have power unless they are modern farms, and in Africa, I don't think there's power along the farm. And then number two, there's no Wi-Fi. So with these two challenges, we have to figure out how can we, number one, power our IoT components remotely, and then number two, how do we provide enough connection so we can know, because IoT is never complete without the internet part. So we had to develop our gateway. We had to make it solar powered. Then we had to monitor and see how it's performing, which was good. We had to look for IoT SIM cards, see a way to create the connectivity, which worked. And also, like for Nigeria and Benin, we have a partner project which we're working on. So they wanted us to log weather station data back to SEADE. So with this aspect, we had to build a gateway in a perspective whereby it can get data from the weather station and still log to our WASI cloud and then still send it to our partner. Same thing for our irrigation sensors that we actually install on the farms to monitor the amount of moisture in the soil. So for that, they are all solar powered. They send data to the gateway, and within the gateway, we are also developing a machine learning enabled app that can predict an algorithm for the next irrigation. Basically, it searches data utilizing weather data, and then also with your current soil parameters. So with that, we can be able to tell you there's no need to do irrigation now because it may rain in the next 30 minutes. Or maybe with the next weather pattern, this is the best format to do your irrigation. So that's the whole aspect we're looking on in creating the irrigation solutions that will power both Kenya, Nigeria, and Benin, and also beyond. Thank you. Over to you, Joseph.
Okay, yeah. So ideally, we have developed quite some experience in the context, and we have probably, I can even call it a database of some of the challenges to expect, yeah, while trying to break the market in the Kenyan or the African context, at least for a few of the countries, yeah, not speak for all the countries. And we are still quite open to hear probably anyone else who has tried to do this or anyone else who is interested in doing this but does not have the proper way to do it. Also, we could have some small discussion, yeah, and see if we align on some of these challenges. Yeah. So I think that should be it from in terms of the presentation. Probably at this stage, it is more interesting to get some questions from the audience. If there are any interesting questions, yes, Demba. Yeah, so maybe your mic can be, I don't know if your mic is enabled. Yeah, so if either Melanie or Tendai or still can enable the mic of Demba.
Sure, let me do that.
Okay. Okay. I think it is now enabled. Yeah? So Demba, you are free to turn on your mic and maybe ask the question. Otherwise, you can also type it if the mic is not open. So any other question as we wait for Demba? So as you do that, please fill the survey. So please yeah, please be filling the survey form that we have shared on the chat. Yeah, I see the question for Demba. So let me see. Yeah. I wanted to find out how you transmit the information generated from the weather stations to the farmers. So maybe Brian, you'd like to respond to this one? Hello, Brian.
Sorry,
Yeah,
can
so
you
there's
please
a
come
question in the
again?
chat.
What's the question?
there's a question in the chat from Demba asking, I wanted to find out how you transmit the information generated from the weather station to the farmers.
Oh, that part we are still working on it, but for now the information is coming to us. We have a general dashboard on the WhatsApp side. Our next step is we are developing another dashboard for the farmers side because most farmers are not technical. So we're working on that, and then we are seeing on how to integrate our machine learning model so that the farmers can interact with it. But for now, we only have the general dashboard that's quite technical, so the farmers are not yet able to access it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So okay. I don't know if it is clear, Demba. Yeah. So the farmer link is not yet very well set up. Yeah. Set up, but eventually how we will do it is through a mobile application. Yeah. Through a mobile application. So all the data sets, yeah, soil and weather information will be received by the farmer through the mobile application. And that is also an interesting thing because the expectation is that most of the farmers would have probably phones that have the ability to show applications. So aside from the feature phones, so the modern phones, probably an Android or an iPhone, yeah, that is also the expectation. Okay. Yeah, the other question, I think Tendai just answered this one regarding the VC perspective. Yeah, Moises already responded to that. Okay, great. Yeah, are there any other questions? Yeah, we have question.
Yes, I see there's a question for me, Joseph.
Yes.
Let me check.
Yeah, that is from Ryan Awori, who is asking for European VCs planning to invest in African startups. What's your experience in the biggest challenges that may prevent them?
Look, okay, mostly the VCs are in every country, they are organized in local syndicates, and of course they prefer the local investing opportunities first. However, there are specific investing syndicates that they are designed to support in specific thematics. So it's not the Cyprus venture capital organization, it's a venture capital organization investing in green tech, in water and in irrigation, let's say. They have a specific interest in a specific sector. What they look for, of course, is the tracking record and how strong is the local ecosystem, how many startups, what is the number of leads, because they base all their business plan on the assumption that they get specific number of leads that they might be invested, and then there is a successful rate, a percentage, a very small percentage for follow-ups in the next years. So the number of leads is very important. I believe you can do this in Africa. The tracking record as well. And then they need someone locally to trust and start with. So building trust is not an overnight process. It's a very long and painful, I would say, process. This is why I mentioned in the do's slide to promote small scale pilots, small scale testing first to build trust and then scale it up. Of course, any other factors of avoidance, let's say, would be any type of complexity of a regulatory framework or political uncertainty, let's say, in some situations. They want to put their money somewhere that are solid, stable, and safe.
Yeah, okay. Brian says he's satisfied. Yeah.
Yeah, welcome.
Yeah, good. Okay. Any other questions? Yeah. So our lines are still open. That is, in case you have further questions regarding anything that has been presented, our lines are still open. So you can feel free to email any of the presenters.